So, anything interesting happened this last week? We're only a week past the election, and while emotions are still high, they're not as high as they were, thankfully. Unfortunately, it also showed the true colors of many people. On X alone, you only need to throw a rock with the strength and accuracy of a 2-year-old to find some of the more, shall we say, unhinged comments. Really? And then there's what a BYU professor taped to his office door. If you supported Donald Trump in the recent election, then this scripture is for you. Mosiah 29:26-27. By almost all objective standards, Donald Trump is an evil man. Now that you have made your choice, you should expect this prophecy to be fulfilled. This particular professor even responded to the Cougar Chronicle and doubled down. First of all, there is no question that Trump is a wicked man. The list of his crimes is very long. The word endorsement does not apply. I didn't say to vote for Trump or to not vote for Trump. My comment about supporting a candidate was neutral in the sense that I did not endorse any candidate. I made a comment of what happened in the scriptures when the majority of the people chose a wicked leader. Students should not confuse their political affiliation with the gospel, and if they do, they should be taking classes where the ideas are discussed. Being neutral is not the same as being ignorant and naive. The idea from the last paragraph comes straight out of the Book of Mormon. If it offends you, then you should also be offended by the Book of Mormon. If it offends you, you probably don't believe the Book of Mormon. Really? Sorry, but this is just like using the Sermon on the Mount to justify cutting someone off and giving them the bird on the freeway. Oh, but the story doesn't end there. In response, a student taped half of the family proclamation to his door. Just as that student was about to tape the second half, this happened.
Evil
Is Kamala much better, sir? She wants to kill babies.
No, she doesn't want to kill babies.
She's pro-abortion.
Well, wait to see what happens once. Here, I'm gonna.
Did you just tear the family proclamation
in front of you? I'm tearing this,
sir?
Because I think
that's modern revelation. I have that all on video.
Well, great.
That's modern revelation, sir, from a prophet.
You're not a prophet.
I'm not a prophet, but Gordon B. Hinckley was a prophet, and his Quorum of the 12 were prophets. Were they not?
What I know is that you're a coward.
I'm a coward. You're the one that just tore modern revelation, sir.
You just came and put something on my door without knocking first.
Well, I hope you have a nice day.
See ya.
Now, there have been other creators that have commented at length regarding this, some even pointing out that this is not all that uncommon at BYU. And sadly, I am inclined to agree, despite having never attended BYU myself. And this is something that has caught the attention of the brethren as well.
Then imagine the pain that comes with a memo like this one I recently received. You should know, the writer says, that some people in the extended community are feeling abandoned and betrayed at BYU, or by BYU. It seems that some professors, at least the vocal ones in the media, are supporting ideas that many of us feel are contradictory to gospel principles, making it appear to be about like any other university our sons and daughters could have attended. Several parents have said they no longer want to send their children here or donate to the school. Please don't think I'm opposed to people thinking differently about policies and ideas, the writer continues. I'm not. But I would hope that BYU professors would be bridging those gaps between faith and intellect and would be sending out students that are ready to do the same in loving, intelligent, articulate ways. Yet I fear that some faculty are not supportive of the church's doctrines and policies and choose to criticize them publicly. There are consequences to this. After having served a full-time mission and marrying her husband in the temple, a friend of mine recently left the church. In her graduation statement on a social media post, she credited such and such a BYU program and its faculty, with the radicalization of her attitudes and the destruction of her faith. Well, fortunately, we don't get too many of those letters, but this one isn't unique. Several of my colleagues get the same kind. And I say now that if we're an extension of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and take a significant amount of sacred tithes and other human precious resources, all of which might well be expended in other worthy causes, surely our integrity demands that our lives be absolutely consistent with and characteristic of the restored gospel of Jesus Christ. At a university, there will always be a healthy debate regarding a whole syllabus full of issues. But until we all come to the unity of the faith and have grown to the measure of the stature of the fullness of Christ, our next best achievement will be to stay in harmony with the Lord's anointed, those whom He has designated to declare church doctrine and to guide Brigham Young University as its trustees.
In a way, LDS scholars at BYU and elsewhere are a little bit like the builders of the temple in Nauvoo, who worked with a trowel in one hand and a musket in the other. Today, scholars building the temple of learning must also pause on occasion to defend the kingdom. I personally think this is one of the reasons the Lord established and maintains this university. The dual role of builder and defender is unique and ongoing. I am grateful we have scholars today who can handle, as it were, both trowels and muskets.
I would like to hear a little more musket fire from this temple of learning.
He said this in a way that could have applied to a host of topics in various departments, but the one he specifically mentioned was the doctrine of the family and defending marriage as the union of a man and a woman. Little did he know that while many would hear his appeal, especially the School of Family Life, who moved quickly and visibly to assist, some others fired their muskets all right, but unfortunately didn't always aim at those hostile to the church. We thought a couple of stray rounds even went north of the point of the mountain.
With the situation at BYU to the point where people who are supposed to be the warrior scholars are condemning people to hell for voting a way they don't like, it seems the words of Jesus himself are ultimately forgotten. Do not judge so that you may not be judged. For with the judgment you make, you will be judged, and the measure you give will be the measure you get. But I guess since this professor was so insistent on using the Book of Mormon, perhaps using the Book of Mormon in reply would be apropos. Behold what the Scripture says, Men shall not smite, neither shall he judge, for judgment is mine, saith the Lord, and vengeance is mine also, and I will repay. And he that shall breathe out wrath and strifes against the work of the Lord, and against the covenant people of the Lord, who are the house of Israel, and shall say, We will destroy the work of the Lord, and the Lord will not remember his covenant which he hath made unto the house of Israel, the same is in danger to be hewn down and cast into the fire. For the eternal purposes of the Lord shall roll on, until all his promises shall be fulfilled. And, I mean, if this ultimately offends that professor, then by his own standard, he would be offended by the Book of Mormon. And, by that same standard, likely doesn't believe the Book of Mormon. Now, don't get me wrong. When Jesus is saying not to judge, he isn't saying to play dumb and let people do whatever they want. The warning is against condemnation and consigning people to hell.
Since mortals cannot suppose that they will be acting as final judges at that future sacred time, why did the Savior command that we not judge final judgments? I believe this commandment was given because we presume to make final judgments whenever we proclaim that any particular person is going to hell or to heaven for a particular act or as of a particular time. When we do this, and there is great temptation to do so, we hurt ourselves and the person we pretend to judge. The effect of one mortal's attempting to pass final judgment on another mortal is analogous to the effect on an athlete and observers if we could proclaim the outcome of an athletic contest with certainty while it was still underway. A similar reason forbids our presuming to make final judgments on the outcome of any person's lifelong mortal contest.
While one portion of the human race is judging and condemning the other without mercy, the great parent of the universe looks upon the whole of the human family with a fatherly care and paternal regard. He holds the reins of judgment in his hands. He is a wise lawgiver and will judge all men not according to the narrow, contracted notions of men, not according to what they have not, but according to what they have. Those who have lived without law will be judged without law, and those who have a law will be judged by that law.
Thus, we must refrain from making final judgments on people because we lack the knowledge and the wisdom to do so. We would even apply the wrong standards. The world's way is to judge competitively between winners and losers. The Lord's way of final judgment will be to apply His perfect knowledge of the law a person has received and to judge on the basis of that person's circumstances, motives, and actions throughout his or her entire life.
And that's exactly what the professor and these others were doing, condemning people and labeling candidates as evil, regardless of the truth behind such a statement, without a truly honest look at the candidate that they ended up supporting. The ironic thing is that while he says students should not confuse their political affiliation with the gospel, he's doing exactly that, tying political opinions to his version of gospel purity. Don't confuse the two should mean don't mix them up on either side. Period. And this is true regardless of what political viewpoint anyone has. Going back to the Book of Mormon, yes, there are plenty of examples of wicked leaders. It's a petri dish of how fast people fall when they ditch God for some charismatic leader. But the warnings in it aren't an excuse for blanket condemnation of people who voted in a way they didn't like. And there are verses that are very, very clear. For as their laws and their governments were established by the voice of the people, and they who chose evil were more numerous than they who chose good, therefore they were ripening for destruction, for the laws had become corrupted. This is the major difference. It wasn't just the Nephite leaders, but the Nephites themselves that had turned from God. Everyone was turning to greed and pride, plain and simple. But this is also where folks who are so willing to condemn get it so twisted. Being a witness of Jesus Christ doesn't mean casting political opposition as beyond redemption. That's how the spirit of contention gets in, which Jesus warned against. For verily, verily, I say unto you, he that hath the spirit of contention is not of me, but is of the devil, who is the father of contention. And he stirreth up the hearts of men to contend with anger one with another. Behold, this is not my doctrine, to stir up the hearts of men with anger one against another, but this is my doctrine, that such things should be done away.
The Scriptures not only command or contemplate that we will make intermediate judgments, but they also give us some guidance, some governing principles in how to do so. First of all, a righteous judgment must, by definition, be intermediate. It will refrain from declaring that a person has been assured of exaltation or from dismissing a person as being irrevocably bound for hellfire. It will refrain from declaring that a person has forfeited all opportunity for exaltation or even all opportunity for a useful role in the work of the Lord. The gospel is a gospel of hope, and none of us is authorized to deny the power of the atonement to bring about a cleansing of individual sins, forgiveness, and a reformation of life on appropriate conditions. Second, a righteous judgment will be guided by the Spirit of the Lord, not by anger, revenge, jealousy, or self-interest. The Savior taught that one of the missions of the Comforter he would send would be to assist in judgment of the world by guiding the faithful into all truth. Third, to be righteous and intermediate judgment must be within our stewardship. We should not presume to exercise and act upon judgments that are outside our personal responsibilities. Some time ago, I attended an adult Sunday school class in a small town in Utah. The subject was the sacrament, and the class was being taught by the bishop. During class discussion, a member asked, "What if you see an unworthy person partaking of the sacrament? What do you do?" The bishop answered, "You do nothing. I may need to do something." That wise answer illustrates my point about stewardship in judging. A fourth principle of a righteous intermediate judgment of a person is that we should, if possible, refrain from judging until we have an adequate knowledge of the facts. A fifth principle of a righteous intermediate judgment is that whenever possible, we will refrain from judging people and only judge situations. This is essential whenever we attempt to act upon different standards than others with whom we must associate, at home, at work, or in the community. We can set and act upon high standards for ourselves or our homes without condemning those who do otherwise. A final ingredient or principle of a righteous judgment is that it will apply righteous standards. If we apply unrighteous standards, our judgment will be unrighteous. By falling short of righteous standards, we place ourselves in jeopardy of being judged by incorrect or unrighteous standards ourselves. A standard can be unrighteous because it is too harsh. The consequences are too severe for the gravity of the wrong and the needs of the wrongdoer.
Now, why do I point this in the realm of politics? Well, outside of the obvious connections that I've already made, there's another talk from President Oaks that should be addressed toward the people who want to point a scornful finger at those who dare vote for a certain candidate regardless of political party.
There are many political issues, and no party, platform, or individual candidate can satisfy all personal preferences. Each citizen must therefore decide which issues are most important to him or her at any particular time. Then, members should seek inspiration on how to exercise their influence according to their individual priorities. This process will not be easy. It may require changing party support or candidate choices, even from election to election. Such independent actions will sometimes require voters to support candidates or political parties or platforms whose other positions they cannot approve. That is one reason we encourage our members to refrain from judging one another in political matters. We should never assert that a faithful Latter-day Saint cannot belong to a particular party or vote for a particular candidate. We teach correct principles and leave our members to choose how to prioritize and apply those principles on the issues presented from time to time.
This us versus them mentality that President Oaks is talking about isn't anything new. And I'm not just talking about American politics here. We see this happening even in the Book of Mormon. Remember Amalickiah and his brother Ammoron? Toward the beginning of the war chapters in Alma, Amalickiah convinces a group of lower judges and much of the general public to return to the monarchy that was dissolved by Mosiah several decades earlier. Now, this effort ultimately fails, but those that supported Amalickiah had split off into two groups. The first, joining back up with the Nephites, while the rest followed Amalickiah to join the Lamanites and ultimately usurp power there. However, even those that remained with the Nephites still maintained that there needed to be a king, despite having a system of judges that worked very well. What they wanted was a more centralized power that whittled away the liberties of the people they governed. These kingmen refused to fight for the liberty of the Nephite people. And it came to pass that those who were desirous that Pehoran should be dethroned from the judgment seat were called kingmen. For they were desirous that the law should be altered in a manner to overthrow the free government and to establish a king over the land. And those who were desirous that Pehoran should remain chief judge over the land took upon them the name of freemen, and thus was the division among them. For the freemen had sworn or covenanted to maintain their rights and the privileges of their religion by a free government. And it came to pass that this matter of their contention was settled by the voice of the people. And it came to pass that the voice of the people came in favor of the freemen, and Pahoran retained the judgment seat, which caused much rejoicing among the brethren of Pahoran, and also many of the people of liberty, who also put the kingmen to silence, that they durst not oppose, but were obliged to maintain the cause of freedom. Now those who were in favor of kings were those of high birth, and they sought to be kings, and they were supported by those who sought power and authority over the people. And it came to pass that when the men who were called kingmen had heard that the Lamanites were coming down to battle against them, they were glad in their hearts. And they refused to take up arms, for they were so wroth with the chief judge, and also with the people of liberty, that they would not take up arms to defend their country. And it came to pass that Moroni commanded that his army should go against those kingmen, to pull down their pride and their nobility, and level them with the earth, or they should take up arms and support the cause of liberty. And thus Moroni put an end to those kingmen, that there were not any known among the appellation of kingmen. And thus he put an end to the stubbornness and pride of those people who professed the blood of nobility, but they were brought down to humble themselves like unto their brethren, and to fight valiantly for their freedom from bondage.
It is the devil's desire that the Lord's priesthood stay asleep, while the strings of tyranny gradually, quietly entangle us, until, like Gulliver, we awake too late and find that while we could have broken each string separately as it was put upon us, our sleepiness permitted enough strings to bind us to make the rope that enslaved us. For years we have heard of the role the elders could play in saving the Constitution from total destruction. But how can the elders be expected to save it if they have not studied it and are not sure if it is being destroyed or what is destroying it? An informed, patriotic Gentile was dumbfounded when he heard of Joseph Smith's reported prophecy regarding the mission our elders could perform in saving the Constitution. He lived in a Mormon community with nice people who were busily engaged in other activities, but who had little concern in preserving their freedom. He wondered if maybe a letter should not be sent to President McKay, urging him to release some of the elders from their present church activities, so there would be a few who could help step forward to save the Constitution. Now, it is not so much a case of a man giving up all his other duties to fight for freedom, as it is a case of a man getting his life in balance so he can discharge all of his God-given responsibilities. And of all these responsibilities, President McKay has said, we have no greater immediate responsibility than to protect the freedom vouchsafed by the Constitution of the United States. There is no excuse that can compensate for the loss of liberty. Now, Satan is anxious to neutralize the inspired counsel of the prophets and hence keep the priesthood off balance, ineffective and inert in the fight for freedom. He does this through diverse means, including the use of perverse reasoning. For example, he will argue there is no need to get involved in the fight for freedom. All you need to do is live the gospel. Of course, this is a contradiction, because we cannot fully live the gospel and not be involved in the fight for freedom. We would not say to someone, there is no need to be baptized, all you need to do is live the gospel. That would be ridiculous, because baptism is a part of the gospel. How would you have reacted if during the war in heaven someone had said to you, look, just do what's right. There's no need to get involved in the fight for free agency. Now it is obvious that what the devil is trying to do, but it is sad to see many of us fall for his destructive line. The cause of freedom is the most basic part of our religion. Our position on freedom helps get us to this earth, and it can make the difference as to whether we get back home or not.
We should definitely be willing to stand up for what is right, our freedoms and our liberties, while ensuring that everyone else is able to live the same way without fear of condemnation in one direction or another. We can't undermine agency or trample the Constitution's protection of differing opinions just because we're mad about how someone voted. And if we're out there condemning people for their political choices, let's remember who's watching. The Savior said, "Leave the ultimate judgment to Him."
Our belief in divine inspiration gives Latter-day Saints a unique responsibility to uphold and defend the United States Constitution and principles of constitutionalism wherever we live. We should trust in the Lord and be positive about this nation's future.
I don't want this to become a political channel, but there are times when politics and the gospel intersect. Latter-day Saints shouldn't be ignorant of the world at large. We need to know what is happening and how we can better implement gospel principles into our everyday lives, including who we choose to lead.
We engage in the election the same as in any other principle. You are to vote for good men, and if you do not do this, it is a sin. To vote for wicked men, it would be sin. Choose the good, and refuse the evil. Men of false principles have preyed upon us like wolves upon helpless lambs. Damn the rod of tyranny, curse it! Let every man use his liberties according to the Constitution. Don't fear man or devil. Electioneer with all people, male and female, and exhort them to do the thing that is right. We want a president of the U.S., not a party president, but a president of the whole people. For a party president disfranchises the opposite party. Have a president who will maintain every man in his rights.
Musket fire? Yes, we will always need defenders of the faith. But friendly fire is a tragedy. And from time to time, the church, its leaders, and some of our colleagues within the university community have taken such fire on this campus. And sometimes it isn't friendly. Wounding students and the parents of students, so many who are confused about what so much recent flag waving and parade holding on this issue means.
Evil is
Is Kamala much better, sir? She wants to kill babies.
no, she
abortion.
doesn't want to kill babies.
She's pro-abortion.
Well, wait to see what happens once. Here, I'm gonna.
Did you just
this
tear the
up
family proclamation?
in front of you? I'm tearing this
Sir,
because I think
that's modern revelation. I have that all on video.
well, wait.
That's modern revelation, sir. From a prophet.
You're not a prophet.
I'm not a prophet, but Gordon B. Hinckley was a prophet, and this Quorum of the 12 were prophets. Were they not?
What I know is that you're a coward.
I'm a coward. You're the one that just tore modern revelation, sir.
You just came and put something on my door without knocking first.
Well, I hope you have a nice day.
See ya.
My beloved friends, this kind of confusion and conflict ought not to be, not here. There are better ways to move toward crucially important goals in these very difficult matters. Ways that show empathy and understanding for everyone while maintaining loyalty to prophetic leadership and devotion to revealed doctrine. My brethren have made the case for the metaphor of musket fire, which I have endorsed yet again today. There will continue to be those who oppose our teachings, and that will continue the need to define, document, and defend the faith. But we all look forward to the day when we can beat our swords into plowshares and our spears into pruning hooks.
Look, I get it. There are a lot of people who are scared right now. And there are others who are scratching their heads thinking that the data just doesn't line up. The fact is, despite the passionate ranting and raving of people holding high what government data says about inflation and wage growth, this wasn't felt by people on the ground. Those insisting that those people were ignoring the data or that there were greater issues than being able to put food on the table were ultimately seen as privileged elites high in their ivory towers spitting upon the peasants below. Not unlike the kingmen in the Book of Mormon. These data points didn't reflect the reality that these people were living on a day-to-day basis. This wasn't a perception based on fringe media or political rhetoric. This was real life. And the primary rhetoric coming from those perceived ivory towers was to sit down, shut up, and don't believe your lying eyes, but believe our lying words. At least until the writing was eventually on the wall.
Good. I want to talk about economy for a second. A few weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, somebody who was going to be voting for Kamala Harris came up to me and said, "Oh my God, Trump's going to win." I go, "Why is that?" He goes, I went to the grocery store. Butter's over $3. I kind of laughed and I said, well, that's kind of reductive, isn't it? Said it to myself. To him, I smiled and I said, good point. But it actually, what everything we're hearing after the election is,
I'm just saying, the $7.
What's that?
The $7.
What's that? Butter is $7?
Yeah.
What?
Some
Is
places.
it framed in gold? Okay. Anyway,
where you go. But
okay. Well, yeah. Okay. Well,
$7.
anyway, my point is this, Willie. The rent is too damn high, and this guy was saying the cost of butter is way damn too high.
Yeah.
And so I thought it was a bit reductive. It ended up being just the point that if you look at the cost of groceries, if you look at the cost of gas, if you look at the cost of things compared to 4 years ago, it was a very simple answer for working class Americans. Things just cost too much.
yeah.
Yeah, no question about it. By the way, $7.
And for these folks, enough was enough. And given at the very least the perception of being able to effortlessly put food on the table and having the dollar go further than just 4 years ago compared to now, speaks volumes. Just as those who choose to disregard or even disparage the words of living prophets in order to justify certain ideological points. In the end, we need to remember that God is in control, regardless of who is in power currently. And just because of that, we need to be willing to adjust our views to be more in line with Him. We need to trust in the Lord and not act like these people did. Hey guys, if you like this video, be sure to hit that subscribe button and notification bell so you're aware when new videos drop. Thanks for watching.